According to Salary.com, the average chiropractor's take-home pay is somewhere between $113,000 on the low end and on the high end, $275,000, giving us a mean income of $159,000 a year take home. We have now analyzed over 1,000 practices and those practice owners' take home pay, and we have broken it down to 3 levels of income. If you're ready to upgrade your take home pay, this video's for you. So we're going to put these chiropractors' take-home income in 3 categories. Chiropractors making less than $100,000 a year, chiropractors making between $100,000 to $200,000 a year, and then between $200,000 to $300,000 a year. In the first category, chiropractors making less than $100,000 a year had 5 things in common. And the very first one is they didn't have a clear vision or an intentional roadmap of where they were trying to get to. We found that they were just showing up to the practice and responding to the patients that were coming in, working with the team members that they had, but there was no clear vision of what they were trying to intend for their practice. Meaning, I'm clearly here and I want to get to here, which leads us to the second most common thing that we found with these doctors, and that is they didn't have a measurement tool towards that vision. In fact, think about this for a second. Even if you have GPS on your phone, if you don't input a destination and have step-by-step measurement towards that destination, then we're not as successful in getting there. It is amazing with today's technology that when you can put in a destination, it will calculate your estimated time of arrival, and that is the power of data tracking. So those doctors that were sub 6-figure take home a year, they didn't have data tracking. There was no way to measure their progress because they didn't even have a destination in which they were trying to get to. The third most common thing for these doctors is that we found them in a fear mindset. They were actually more worried about not making payroll for their team and covering their monthly overhead. These were doctors that didn't want a lot of attention on them, and so they weren't out marketing, they weren't creating content. They were fear-based, they were comparing themselves to other practices and feeling small. And so we found a direct correlation of them feeling small and the size of their paycheck. The fourth most common thing that we found with these doctors is that they were really using their expertise, right, their modality of chiropractic to become a jack of all trades, meaning they were accepting any condition into their practice and applying chiropractic for general health. That's not a bad thing. Chiropractic is amazing at helping patients with their health care, but being a jack of all trades means you're a master of none. And being a jack of all trades, patients weren't seeking them out for more complex conditions, which left their patient exchange at a lower level. Which leads us to the 5th most common trait. And these doctors were not intentionally marketing. They were reactively marketing, meaning talking to some patients or paying for some advertising, but not really clear, no clear messaging on what types of conditions that they wanted into their practice. No definement of their expertise and how they can solve their patients' problems. With no specificity in marketing, we end up with general messaging. And so if you're generally marketing, then we know that no one is listening. And that's directly reflecting in that chiropractor's take-home pay. So these are the 5 most common traits in chiropractors who are taking home sub 6-figure annual paychecks. I want to offer you a free gift, especially to help those of you who are sub 6-figure in your paychecks, and that is our data-driven new patient system. We have an amazing download that walks you through step-by-step of how to create marketing content, how to build your marketing calendar so that you have consistent flow of your dream patients coming into your practice. Just comment below in the comments, data-driven new patient system, and we will make sure that you get that guide. And for faster delivery, you can just go to Facebook Messenger and look up Cory, DM me directly, and we will make sure you get that guide immediately. So our second group of doctors that are taking home between $100,000 and $200,000 a year had these things in common. And I gotta give you a little bit of a context to this. In fact, after studying the entire market, we broke down the roadmap of a provider evolution. That first group of doctors we were talking about, we typically put them into a category that we call promoters because they're constantly needing new patients. They're constantly feeling like they don't have enough business. And that comes to marketing, and that's why we call them promoters. They're kind of stuck in that phase of their provider evolution. Into the next phase that we start to talk about here, we talk about operators. Operators now had these things in common. And the first thing was that they're gaining some clinical certainty. You're feeling a little bit better about becoming an expert in a condition that you begin attracting those patients. They also had at least one A player. This was a competent team member who could really take over a lot of the admin so that you can play the role of the provider and not be overwhelmed by everything happening in the business. The third most common thing is that they actually had an offer in place, an offer that was clear, that it was an attractive offer that they could see solving their problem, that would bring enough new patients into your practice where you could begin focusing on systems rather than always stuck in promotion. Now, promotion is a system, and as they built those systems in place, there was more automation. With more business came the need for more team. And so they began implementing the hiring process to build their team to 2 team members, 3 team members. And as they scaled that, they were able to scale their patient volume, increasing their paycheck to between the $100,000 to $200,000 take home every year. Now, if you're loving this kind of content, remember to like and subscribe to this channel. That helps you make sure you don't miss a single great episode of the Data-Driven Practice, and it helps us promote our videos to more doctors so that we can help our profession elevate everybody's income, because that's my purpose, is to help you gain the income that you deserve for being the most amazing healer in our healthcare community. So again, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications. This next level of income, we found these doctors making between $200,000 to $300,000 a year. These doctors move from operator to what we call leader. A leader is where you're ready to build out a leadership team, including your first associate doctor. You have been the primary treating physician and always stuck working in the business rather than on the business, which we know is an important connection to scaling your income. In order to start working on the business, we need to move you from the junior associate role to a senior provider role and bring in the junior associate that can really begin to take over the basic patient population, where you focus on the more complex conditions, and one of your team members is now being promoted to a fractional office manager. We don't necessarily need a full-time office manager at this point, so a fractional office manager is fulfilling the admin role responsibility and filling one of your other positions. That might be at the front desk, that might be a case manager, that might be a billing manager, but that team member is fulfilling that role within the practice to remove some of the stress off of your shoulders, to managing the team, watching your numbers, helping in training, and especially building and growing your team, because you're going to need this as you get more time to work on the business. In this leadership role, you begin to really change your marketing message. Instead of promoting you and patients coming in to see you, you're promoting a system. We call this your USP, your unique selling proposition. This is the system that you have now developed that the junior associates coming into your practice to be trained on. The system of care that you deliver within your practice that produces predictable patient outcomes. And as the junior associate is being trained on how to produce those same results as you produce, we can now promote to your community that there is a system, a brand, an outcome that they can expect by coming into your practice. Now, as these doctors transitioned into this leadership role, they really had time to focus on what we call your profit levers. They knew their overhead. They knew their margins of where their team's payroll needed to be, where their ad spend needed to be, where their overhead needed to be, so that everything was healthy for a growing and scaling practice. These doctors are the ones that could be predictably taking home between $200,000 and $300,000 each and every year. Now guys, I've got a bonus income level that I wanted to share with you because this is really the 1% of the profession that we have found making this kind of income, but I wanted to share with you so you could set your sights on this type of an income, and that was doctors making $300 plus a year. This is not gross for the practice, this is their take-home pay, and these were doctors who had now moved from the leader role to what we call the high performer role. The high performer role is where you've brought in another associate. You've stepped out of full-time patient care and you now have blocked time to be working on the business with some block time to still be taking care of some of the patients that are really committed to you, that really only want to see you, and that's fine. But you now have time to work on the practice. And that means you are getting tenacious at building what we call the 4 mechanisms of the flywheel. The practice flywheel, think about this, like getting a flywheel moving is really difficult in the beginning, and that's what you've been climbing up until this point. But as we begin to put in systems and we build team around you, we now have momentum. And your job, your role is to start picking up momentum of these 4 key areas. The first one is the attraction mechanism of the flywheel. That is really controlling your marketing to generate enough new patients to fill multiple providers' schedules, create efficiency in that treatment, and optimize your production per hour within the practice. The next piece of the flywheel is the conversion. I share this all the time with our doctors that the wealth, the riches of your practice is in your conversion metrics. These are efficiency metrics. That means that more leads are converting to new patients, more new patients are converting to care plans, and more care plans are completing their care plans within the practice. That means we're working smarter, not harder, by constantly bringing in new patients that aren't converting, because that creates a tremendous amount of lag on the flywheel. Once we create efficiencies in your conversion, we're now optimizing fulfillment, and you're doing that by working with your clinical team to make sure they're delivering high quality care through progress exams and watching and making sure that we're delivering, we're documenting, we're doing everything that we need for the production or treatment team to produce great quality care. The last piece of the flywheel is the retain, refers, generate reviews. This is what brings patients back into the attraction mechanism of the flywheel, because the bigger your practice grows, the bigger the patient base grows, the bigger density, it creates gravity, it starts attracting more patients who want those same type of results that your practice is now completing. These doctors at High Performers were taking home the biggest paychecks. It's because they had figured out the business systems of the practice. They now have a data tracking mechanism with data dashboards in their practice, with profit dashboards that monitor those profit levers in real time, with total expense dashboards so they can see, do I have any leaky buckets where I'm leaking money every month? They become businessmen and women who see their practice as a business and understand that the bigger they can grow that business, the more density it attracts for patients to come and experience that patient transformation that the business generates. These are the 4 levels of income in the chiropractic profession. I hope that you can see where you're at, set your sights on the next level, and start following those steps so that you can grow and accelerate your own growth and personal development, which has a direct connection to then your personal income. Now, if you need help with this, we have an amazing opportunity that we call Turn Your Data into Dollars Challenge. It's a 5-day challenge where I will personally train you on how to put some of these mechanisms into place, how to get going, how to get started, not be overwhelmed by tracking your numbers, not be overwhelmed by understanding marketing. We've figured all of that out for you. We've paved the path. So if you're ready to take your income seriously, click the link below and come join the Turn Your Data into Dollars Challenge. In 5 days, it could literally change the trajectory of your income this year. So get in the challenge. It is the place to grow your salary.